The morning my front porch exploded into splinters, I didn't wake up confused. I woke up furious. That cracking sound wasn't just wood breaking, it was memory being torn apart. And when I looked at my security camera and saw Lorraine Bixby standing there with a crowbar in her hand, calm as Sunday service, I knew this wasn't about architecture anymore. Yeah, that happened. It was 6:42 a.m. fog still hanging low over Silver Creek Meadows. Birds barely awake, and there she was, HOA president, pearl earrings, pressed slacks, that tight little smile she wore when she thought she was improving the world. She wedged that pry bar under the cedar shutter I'd carved myself and leaned into it like she was opening a can of soup. The nails screamed before they gave up. She ripped it free and tossed it into a landscaping trailer like it was contaminated waste. Then she looked straight into my camera and said, "Emergency architectural non-compliance." Emergency. That shutter came from my wife Claire's family barn in Montana. Reclaimed cedar weathered for nearly a century. I sanded it by hand, stained it the color she loved. Every board on that cabin meant something. It wasn't a project, it was therapy. After Claire passed from lymphoma, the silence in our old house felt unbearable. You ever walk into a room and swear you can still hear someone's footsteps? That was my life for a year. So I sold it. Bought 5 wooded acres right outside that pristine subdivision. Built something honest. Timber frame, stone foundation, solar panels, rain barrels, wildflowers instead of chemical grass. Claire hated cookie-cutter houses. Used to say vinyl siding was just fear in plastic form, so I built her something alive. Lorraine called it an eyesore. She didn't stop with the shutters. She swung a sledgehammer at the stone walkway I laid by hand. 4 months of hauling river rock, fitting each piece like a puzzle. In under 20 minutes, it was rubble. She shouted about bylaws while smashing it like the noise justified the rule. I just stood there inside my kitchen, watching the live feed coffee going cold in my hand, feeling something shift inside me. Not grief this time. Not even anger. It was clarity. I'd already gotten the letters. Heavy paper, embossed, HOA seal. Structure incompatibility. Violation. 12B. My cabin didn't match the neighborhood aesthetic. I wrote back politely attached zoning records proving my lot predated their development. I wasn't under their jurisdiction. Fax maps, dates. The engineer in me believed paperwork solved problems. Lorraine responded with a $1,200 fine for unauthorized landscaping. Translation: Claire's wildflowers weren't obedient enough. She wanted sod, straight lines, predictability. I went to one of their meetings even though I didn't have to. Figured I'd look her in the eye. She stood at that podium like a queen addressing peasants. "Mr. Mercer, your structure threatens property values." I said, "Ma'am, it's a cabin, not a meth lab." A few neighbors chuckled. She didn't. Her eyes hardened like I'd insulted her personally. That's when I understood. This wasn't about code, it was about control. She sent her nephew next, architectural compliance officer, 20-something kid with a reflective vest that still had fold lines in it. He measured my porch with a fabric tape measure and claimed it extended 18 inches into an easement. I called Hank Donnelly, a retired surveyor who lives 3 streets over. Hank showed up with a laser station worth more than the kid's car. 30 minutes later, Hank spat a toothpick and said, "You're 4 feet inside your line. That boy couldn't measure a coffin if he was laying in it." I sent the certified survey to the HOA board. Lorraine answered with a cease and desist letter from a downtown attorney accusing me of harassment. Harassment because I proved I existed legally. Then came the orange condemnation sticker. A so-called structural inspector who never stepped inside declared my cabin unsafe due to non-standard timber usage. He recommended an HOA-approved contractor, owned by Lorraine's brother-in-law. That's when I realized she wasn't enforcing rules, she was manufacturing them. I peeled that sticker off my door slowly. I've built levees in hurricane zones, bridges across fault lines. I know what structural instability looks like. My cabin wasn't unstable, but something in this neighborhood was. So I stopped playing defense. I called Carla at the county records office, an old contact from a flood mitigation project years back. I asked for everything tied to Lorraine's property: permits, soil reports, inspections, environmental assessments. When the file landed in my inbox, it felt heavy, even in digital form. Lorraine's house sat on the lower slope of the subdivision right along the boundary of an old capped municipal waste site from the late 1970s. Nothing dramatic like glowing barrels, just industrial waste sealed under a clay containment cap. Condition for development approval was simple: no excavation deeper than 10 feet in that zone. Lorraine had installed a 12-foot deep pool. No permit on file, no soil clearance, no inspection. I hired Dr. Maya Patel, an environmental engineer who doesn't scare easy. She ran soil samples along Lorraine's fence line. Methane readings spiked. Benzene traces showed up. Toluene, she lowered her voice and said, if that clay cap's breached gas is venting. And that pool, it could be acting like a chimney. You know that sweet chemical smell that sometimes drifted through the neighborhood? Turns out it wasn't fertilizer. We gathered neighbors in Hank's garage. People fined for mailbox fonts and bird feeders. Maya explained what she found. The room got quiet fast. Headaches some folks had been ignoring suddenly made sense. Lisa Romero, my attorney, leaned over the workbench and said, under state environmental code, if a property owner negligently breaches a containment site, the county can seize control for remediation. Someone asked about cost. Lisa didn't blink. It falls on the property owner. Lorraine caught wind of it and went on local news. Called me a disgruntled hermit, jealous of her success. Stood in front of her house saying the soil was pristine. While she was talking live on air, Maya's monitoring units, legally installed at the property line, started screaming. High-pitched alarms that cut through her speech. That night, security footage caught Lorraine and her nephew sneaking out with bolt cutters trying to disable the monitors. Cutting power might be petty. Tampering with environmental monitoring equipment, federal felony. The agents arrived at dawn. Calm, efficient, almost polite. Lorraine came out in a silk robe arguing about jurisdiction. One agent said, "Ma'am, hands behind your back." She looked stunned, like authority wasn't supposed to apply to her. The hearing was packed. Lorraine had lawyers stacked like cordwood. I had data. Maya presented simulations showing exactly how the excavation pierced the clay barrier. She showed invoices proving Lorraine had been warned by contractors about unusual soil conditions and paid them extra to continue quietly. The judge listened, then said, "Mrs. Bixby, you weaponized authority to silence your neighbors while violating laws meant to protect them." The ruling ordered full remediation, estimated at $3.8 million, and temporary seizure of the property as a central remediation site. 2 weeks later, diesel engines rolled down Silver Creek Lane. Waste management rigs, heavy equipment, they tore up Lorraine's manicured lawn to install extraction wells. The pool was drained and converted into a gas capture basin. Her gourmet kitchen became an operations office. The symmetry wasn't lost on anyone. The woman who smashed my walkway to protect aesthetics now watched her driveway fill with containment trucks. I rebuilt my walkway slowly, each stone placed with care. Months later, I drove past the highway and saw Lorraine in an orange vest picking up litter as part of her plea agreement. She didn't look at me. I didn't honk. I just kept driving. The HOA dissolved after that. Neighbors were tired of fear disguised as order. We formed a simple community board. One rule: don't be cruel. Houses started changing color. Blue, green, even yellow. Claire's wildflowers bloomed thicker than ever. Every Tuesday morning, trucks still roll into what used to be Lorraine's driveway. Some call it noise pollution. To me, it's a reminder that foundations matter. You can bully a man over paint color. You can smash his shutters and call it compliance. But if your own foundation is rotten, gravity eventually collects. Now here's the part I wrestle with. I didn't lie. I didn't fabricate anything. I followed the law. But I knew what would happen when the county stepped in. I knew her house would never be the same. Was it justice or was it revenge dressed up as compliance? You know what I mean? Sometimes I sit on my porch at sunrise and remember that first crack of wood splitting apart, how small she tried to make me feel. And then I hear the low rumble of containment trucks in the distance, and I wonder, if someone abuses power to crush what you love, how far is too far when you fight back? I want to hear from you. Was Lorraine simply facing consequences? Or did turning her pride and joy into a remediation site cross a line? Have you ever dealt with someone hiding behind authority using rules like weapons? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your story. If this hit home, hit like, subscribe, and stick around, because sometimes the quiet guy in the cabin isn't as powerless as he looks. And sometimes justice sounds a lot like a diesel engine at 7 a.m.